What is this bastard doing in my chair? He stinks. Get him out!
Brenda, he's a veteran. I'm giving him a free haircut.
Free. 2 cockroaches in my shop. One didn't pay, the other gave my service for free.
The old man's hand trembled on his cane. 72. Twice in combat. Couldn't lift his head.
Ma'am, I can pay.
Get out. This isn't for you.
Fletcher Vaughn. Only black barber here. 3 years. Not one sick day. He served this country for 22 years.
And you're barely paying your rent. Trying to be a hero with my money. Know your place, you're fired. Both of you, get out!
She fired her best barber for 1 free veteran haircut. Unbeknownst to her, the old man she called a cockroach, his son ran this entire city. 6 hours earlier, the sun hadn't come up yet. Fletcher Vaughn's alarm went off at 5:30. Same time every morning, same routine for 3 years straight. He sat on the edge of the bed, rubbed his face, and reached for the small picture frame on the nightstand. His father, Staff Sergeant Leonard Vaughn. Standing tall in full dress uniform, medals pinned across his chest, eyes steady, like a man who'd seen everything and still chose to stand. He passed away 2 years ago. Cancer took him slow. Fletcher never talked about it, not to coworkers, not to clients. He just kept the photo close and touched the frame every morning before he left the house. A quiet ritual, a private goodbye that never got easier. His wife Corinne was already in scrubs, filling a thermos in the kitchen. ER nurse, double shifts most weeks. She kissed his cheek on the way out. Make somebody's day today. He smiled. That's the plan. Fletcher packed his tools the way a surgeon packs instruments. Clippers oiled and tested, scissors aligned, combs lined up by size, every edge clean, every blade sharp. He believed the details mattered. If you couldn't respect your own tools, how could you respect the person sitting in your chair? He drove 20 minutes through the quiet streets of Ashford, Georgia, a mid-sized southern city that called itself progressive on every billboard. New South, new spirit. But Fletcher knew better. The spirit was the same. They just painted the signs nicer. Thornton's Style and Grace sat on the corner of Main and Fifth, right in the middle of downtown's gentrified strip. Glass door, marble counters, orchids on the reception desk, instrumental jazz humming through hidden speakers, the kind of place that smelled like lavender and money. Fletcher was always the first one in. He unlocked the door himself, turned on the lights, set up his station, checked the appointments. 3 years, not one sick day, not one late arrival. He was the best barber in that salon, and everyone knew it. Clients drove 45 minutes just to sit in his chair. He remembered every name, every kid's birthday, every story they told him last time. That was his gift, not just the hands, but the listening. He was also the only black barber in the building. He knew it. He never said it. He just let his work speak. At 9:30, Brenda Thornton walked in. Late, like always. She didn't greet anyone, didn't look at anyone, walked straight through the salon floor and into her office, door half closed. The click of her heels was louder than any hello. Her name sat in gold letters above the entrance. She made sure it was the first thing you saw and the last thing you remembered. This was her kingdom. Every chair, every mirror, every square foot, hers. Brenda called every stylist by their first name, every single one. Except Fletcher. To him, it was you or hey. 3 years of that. Fletcher pretended not to notice, but he noticed. Denise Crawford, the white stylist 2 chairs down, noticed too. She'd glance at Fletcher sometimes with a look that said everything. I see it. I know. I'm sorry. But she never said it out loud, not once. Late morning. The salon was steady. 3 white women in various stages of styling. Soft music, the smell of keratin and espresso. Then the door chimed. Harold Wilson stepped in slow, 72 years old, black, a wooden cane in his right hand, worn smooth from years of gripping. On his head, a faded green veteran's cap with unit pins along the brim. His shirt was pressed clean. His shoes were polished but cracked at the toes. He'd just come from the VA clinic 2 blocks over. Routine checkup. His son was hosting the Veterans Day ceremony at City Hall this weekend. Harold wanted to look sharp. He saw the salon, saw the open sign, and walked in. He looked around the room. Marble, glass, white faces. He hesitated, just a half second, like a man checking whether he belonged. Fletcher saw him first. Saw the cane, the cap, the pins. The way Harold held himself. Straight-backed, steady, even while leaning on that stick. And something caught in Fletcher's chest. Because this man looked like his father. Same posture, same quiet eyes. Fletcher pulled out his chair. "Have a seat, sir. Your money's no good here today. Thank you for your service." Harold blinked, sat down slowly, looked at Fletcher in the mirror. It's been a long time since anyone said that to me. Fletcher worked slow, gentle, the way you handle something precious. He tilted Harold's head and ran the clippers along the side. Clean lines, even fade. The old man's hair was silver white and thin, but Fletcher treated every strand like it mattered. Because it did. Harold sat still. The trembling had stopped. The cape rose and fell with each quiet breath. For the first time since walking through that door, he looked comfortable, like a man who had found a place to just be. "What's the ceremony this weekend?" Fletcher asked. "Just talking the way barbers do." "Veterans Day," Harold said. "My son's putting it together, down at City Hall. Been planning it for weeks." "He must be proud of you." "I think he is. He doesn't say it much, but I think he is." "What does your son do?" Harold smiled, proud but quiet about it. "Oh, he's busy. Works for the city. Always running around." "Works for the city." Fletcher nodded, didn't push. Some people share everything. Some keep things close. Harold was the second kind. "My father was a veteran too," Fletcher said quietly. The words just found their way out. Harold looked at him through the mirror. "That right?" "Yes, sir. Passed 2 years ago." Harold reached up and gripped Fletcher's wrist, not hard, just enough to say what words couldn't. "Your daddy raised a good man." Fletcher stopped cutting, looked at the ceiling, breathed in slow, then picked the clippers back up. Denise glanced over from her station. She saw them, 2 black men sharing something real in a room of marble and glass that was never built for them. 2 white clients had stopped scrolling. The salon felt warmer for a moment, like something human had slipped through all the cracks. Nobody wanted to break it. Brenda broke it. The office door swung open, heels on tile. Click, click, click. She came out holding her phone, eyes on the screen, mouth already set in a line. Then she saw Harold. She stopped. Eyes moved fast. The cane, the faded cap, the worn shoes, the dark skin. Everything she needed to see, she caught in 2 seconds. She walked to Fletcher's station. The smile she put on was the kind that bites. "Fletcher, honey, who do we have here?" The word "we" did all the work. Not a question, a claim. My space. Who let this in? "This is Harold, ma'am, a veteran, getting cleaned up for Veterans Day. On the house." Her jaw tightened. "On the house?" "Just this once. Good for the salon." Good for the salon. She repeated it like tasting something rotten. Then she looked at Harold, not at his eyes, through him, past him, like a stain on furniture someone forgot to clean. "We don't do freebies. This isn't a soup kitchen." Brenda, 1 haircut, for a veteran. I decide who sits in these chairs, not you, never you. The subtext landed like a slap. Fletcher heard it. Denise heard it. Harold heard it. Brenda walked back toward her office. Fletcher kept cutting. Hand steady, jaw tight. He knew what was coming. He kept going. Because the man in his chair served 22 years. That mattered more. 5 minutes later, the office door slammed open. Brenda planted herself in the center of the floor. Didn't whisper, didn't pull him aside. She wanted every single ear in the room. Fletcher, put the clippers down. Now. Dead silence. Even the jazz vanished. You gave away my services without permission. Brought someone off the street. No appointment, no payment. And when I told you to stop, you kept going. She stepped closer. Close enough for him to smell her perfume. Expensive, sharp, suffocating. Look at you. 3 years and you still don't get it. Can barely keep your own lights on at home, and you're playing big man with my money, giving what's mine to whoever wanders through my door. Her lip curled. She looked him up and down like she was inspecting something stuck to her shoe. You want to be generous, Fletcher? Try being generous with your own money. Oh, wait, you don't have any. That's why you're here, in my salon, using my tools, cutting hair in my chair. And you still can't figure out where you stand? Fletcher set the clippers down, slowly, carefully, the way a man does when he's choosing not to break something. Brenda, 3 years, never missed a day, more clients than anyone here. You're firing me for one free veteran haircut. I'm firing you because you don't know your place. You never did. Your place. 2 words hung in the air like smoke. Everyone understood what they meant. Harold tried to stand. His cane scraped the tile. Ma'am, please, I'll pay full price. I just wanted a haircut. Brenda didn't look at him. Didn't turn her head 1 inch. Sir, nobody is talking to you. 6 words. That's all it took to erase a 72-year-old veteran from the room. She made him invisible with 1 sentence. Denise's hands froze. 2 clients stared at the floor. The woman by the wash station looked away and said nothing. Nobody spoke. Nobody stood. Not 1 person in that room opened their mouth. The silence was deafening, and it was the loudest thing Brenda had ever gotten away with. Fletcher unclipped his apron, folded it, placed it neatly on the counter. He picked up his tool bag, the same bag he packed every single morning at 5:30, like his life depended on it. He turned to Harold. The old man's chin was trembling. Not from cold, from guilt. Eyes wet and red. He looked like a man who believed every piece of this was his fault. Fletcher bent down, eye to eye, spoke softly, only for Harold. Don't apologize. This was my choice. I'd make it again tomorrow. He unclipped the cape, helped Harold stand, placed the cane back in his hand. Then Fletcher Vaughn walked out of Thornton's Style and Grace for the last time. He didn't slam the door, didn't curse, didn't look back, just walked out into the daylight. Harold followed behind him, slow, 1 hand on the cane, 1 hand brushing his eyes. The sidewalk was bright, sun high over Main Street. The air smelled like fresh coffee from the shop next door, and warm asphalt rising off the pavement. Fletcher stood there for a moment, bag in hand, nowhere to go. Then he looked at Harold. Half a haircut. Left side clean, right side untouched. This man was going to walk through town looking like that. Stand at the ceremony looking like that. Stand in front of his son looking like that. No. Fletcher set his bag on the bench outside the salon, 3 feet from the glass window. Unzipped it. Pulled out clippers. Comb. Cape. Sit down, sir. Son, you don't have to. I'm not finished. Sit down. Harold looked at him. Something moved across his face. Then he sat. Fletcher draped the cape over his shoulders. And right there, on a sidewalk bench, under open sky, in full view of every passerby and every pair of eyes behind that salon glass, he finished what he started. Same hands, same rhythm, same patience, like nothing had happened. Like this was still chair number 3 inside. People noticed. A woman with grocery bags stopped. A man walking his dog paused. A couple holding coffees stepped closer. Then more people. They gathered on the sidewalk and watched. Something about this picture held them there. Something they couldn't name, but couldn't walk away from either. Someone raised a phone, started recording. Another phone went up, then another, then 2 more down the sidewalk. They saw it clearly. A black barber, just fired, cutting hair for a black veteran on a bench, right in front of the salon that had thrown them both out. Fletcher didn't notice the phones. He was looking at Harold, only Harold, brushing hair from the old man's neck, checking edges in the natural sunlight, making sure every line was clean. When he finished, Fletcher stepped back. "You're all set, sir. Ready for that ceremony." Harold looked up, eyes red. He grabbed Fletcher's hand and held tight. The grip of a man who'd carried rifles and buried friends and never once asked anyone for anything. Holding on now like he didn't want to let go. He said it quietly, almost to himself, like a thought that slipped out before he could catch it. My son would have done the same thing. Fletcher didn't understand that sentence. Not yet. A woman clapped, then 2 more. Scattered applause on a downtown sidewalk. Not loud, but loud enough. Loud enough for Brenda to hear through the glass. She stood behind that window, arms crossed, face red, watching the man she'd thrown away receive more love on a wooden bench than she had earned in 15 years behind her marble counter. She had no idea what was coming. That evening, a woman named Claire posted 90 seconds of video to TikTok. No filter, no voiceover, just raw footage from a sidewalk on Main Street. The caption read, "This man just got fired for giving a veteran a free haircut, so he finished it on the sidewalk." The video opened mid-scene. Fletcher on his knees by the bench, cape draped over Harold's shoulders, clippers buzzing in the afternoon light. You could see the salon glowing behind them through the glass. You could see the empty chair inside where Harold had been sitting. And if you looked closely, right there in the window, you could see a woman standing with her arms crossed, watching. The video didn't need narration. The image told the whole story. By midnight, it had 800,000 views. By morning, 3 million. By lunch the next day, it was on every platform. Millions of shares, thousands of comments. Bro got fired for being a good person. The way the old man grabbed his hand, I'm done. Somebody find this barber. He deserves his own shop. That woman in the window is the villain of the year. Fletcher didn't know any of this. He didn't use TikTok. He was lying on his couch that night, staring at the ceiling, running numbers in his head. Rent was due in 11 days. The electric bill was past due. He had $42 in his checking account and 0 missed calls from other salons. Corinne came home from her shift at the hospital. Her phone was already buzzing. A friend had sent the video to their group chat. Then another. Then another. She held the screen in front of his face. "You need to see this." Fletcher watched himself from a stranger's camera angle. Watched himself kneel beside a bench. Watched Harold grab his hand. Watched Brenda's silhouette, standing behind the glass, like a ghost who didn't know she was already dead. He didn't say anything for a long time, just stared at the screen. Then he set the phone down on the couch, face down, and looked back at the ceiling. Brenda Thornton saw the video too, but her reaction was the opposite of silence. She was in her living room when her phone started blowing up. Notifications, tags, one-star reviews pouring into Google like an open faucet. Her salon rating dropped from 4.8 to 3.1 in a single evening. Comments on the salon's Instagram turned hostile. People she'd never met were calling her a racist in her own comment section. She didn't feel guilt. She felt attacked. When Brenda Thornton felt attacked, she didn't retreat. She didn't reflect. She swung back harder. Step 1. Control the story. She posted on the salon's Instagram that same night. A former employee was terminated for repeated violations of salon policy. The viral video circulating online shows only a fraction of the full story. Thornton's style and grace has always maintained the highest professional standards for all clients. She tagged it with empowerment hashtags: boss lady, small business owner, stand your ground. Step 2. Destroy Fletcher's reputation. The next morning, Brenda picked up her phone and started calling every salon owner she knew in the Ashford area. 6 calls, same script. Fletcher Vaughn was terminated for theft of services and insubordination. He gave away salon services without authorization. I wouldn't trust him with your business. In a small industry, the word of a 15-year salon owner carried real weight. Brenda knew that. She was counting on it. Fletcher called 3 salons that week looking for work. None of them called back. Step 3. Go public. Brenda found the viral video on TikTok and commented directly from the salon's official account. This individual was fired for repeated policy violations, not for a single haircut. Do not turn a rule breaker into a hero. I will be pursuing legal options against anyone spreading defamatory content. 15,000 people liked that comment. Half the replies defended her. Her business, her rules. We don't know the whole story. Cancel culture is out of control. Fletcher read every word. Sitting in his apartment at 2 in the morning, scrolling through comments on a video of himself being kind. He read Brenda calling him a rule breaker. He read strangers debating whether he deserved what happened. He read people defending the woman who'd called him a cockroach to his face. Corinne found him still on the couch at 6 a.m., phone in hand, eyes hollow. He hadn't slept. Stop reading that, she said. She's telling everyone I'm a thief, Corinne, on the internet, in front of millions of people. I know. And half of them believe her. Corinne sat down next to him, took the phone out of his hands, held them. The other half don't, and the truth is louder than her. It just needs time. Fletcher wanted to believe that. But 3 days passed, and the truth hadn't gotten any louder. He didn't leave the apartment. No callbacks. No offers. His tools sat in the bag by the front door, untouched. The clippers he oiled every morning now sat silent. The man who hadn't missed a day in 3 years now couldn't get out of bed before noon. Silence from an entire industry that had decided Brenda's version was safer to believe. Meanwhile, 13 miles across town, in an office on the 3rd floor of Ashford City Hall, Mayor Terrence Wilson was finishing his evening paperwork. He picked up his phone to check the news. The algorithm did what algorithms do. It pushed the most watched video in the region to the top of his feed. A TikTok with 11 million views. He tapped play. He saw a man cutting hair on a bench. He saw the cape, the clippers catching sunlight. He saw the barber's hands, steady, careful, focused. And then the camera shifted slightly and he saw the man in the chair. He saw the cap first, a faded green veteran's cap with unit pins along the brim. He'd seen that cap 10,000 times. On the kitchen table, on the shelf by the front door, on his father's head at every Veterans Day ceremony for the past 30 years. Then he saw the face. His father's face. Terrence stopped breathing entirely. He tapped pause, stared at the frozen image on his screen. His father, sitting on a public bench, getting a haircut on a sidewalk, like he wasn't welcome anywhere else. Like there was no room inside for a man like Harold Wilson. He tapped play again, watched Harold grab the barber's hand at the end, watched his father's eyes, red, glassy, full of something that looked too much like shame. Harold Wilson, the man who never complained. The man who'd buried his wife without shedding a tear in public. That man, on a bench, looking like something inside him had cracked. Terrence called his father. "Dad, the video online, the Salon. That's you, isn't it?" Silence on the other end. "Dad," Harold exhaled. The kind of breath a man lets out when he's been holding something for days. "Yes." "What happened?" Harold told him. Short sentences, no self-pity, just facts. "I went in for a haircut. Young man offered it free. The owner fired him for it. He came outside and finished on the bench." Pause. "The boy lost his job because of me, Terrence. He was kind to me, and he lost his job." Terrence listened. He didn't interrupt. When Harold finished, Terrence asked 2 questions. His voice was calm, dangerously calm, terrifyingly controlled. "What's the salon called?" "Thornton's Style and Grace." "What's the barber's name?" "Fletcher. I don't remember his last name." "Don't worry about it, Dad. I'll find him." Harold said quietly, "I don't want to cause trouble." Terrence closed his eyes. "You didn't cause anything, Dad. She did." He hung up. Sat there alone in his office for 5 full minutes. Jaw tight, hands flat on the desk. The city lights glowed below his window. Then he picked up his phone, not to scroll, not to post, to act. That same night, Denise Crawford sat in her apartment watching the video for the 6th time. But she wasn't watching it the way millions of other people were. She was watching it as someone who had been standing right there, 3 feet away, who had heard every word Brenda said, who had seen the look on Harold's face when Brenda told him nobody was talking to him, who had watched Fletcher fold his apron and walk out without raising his voice, who had stood frozen while an old man was told he didn't matter, and who had stood there and said nothing, not a single word. Denise opened her phone, scrolled to the salon staff group chat, found Brenda's messages from the past year, the ones she had never deleted. "The help is getting too comfortable. I only keep him because the consultant said I need a black face. If one more of his people walks in here, I swear." Then she opened TikTok, found Brenda's comment under the viral video. This individual was fired for repeated policy violations. Brenda was lying, publicly, confidently, and Denise Crawford was holding the proof in the palm of her hand. She screenshot every message, saved them carefully into a folder, didn't send them to anyone. Not yet. But she kept her phone charged, and she didn't delete that folder. Terrence Wilson didn't post a tweet, didn't write a statement, didn't call a press conference. Terrence was the kind of man who moved pieces quietly before anyone realized the board had changed. First, he found Fletcher. It wasn't hard. The video had 11 million views. One phone call to a community liaison in the downtown district gave Terrence his number in minutes. He called at 8 p.m. Fletcher almost didn't answer. Unknown number. He'd been ignoring calls for days. Bill collectors, spam, silence. But something made him pick up. "Mr. Vaughn? My name is Terrence Wilson. I'm the mayor of Ashford. Sir, I'm not sure why. The old man in the video, the veteran you cut hair for on the bench outside that salon, that man is my father, Harold Wilson. Fletcher pressed the phone harder against his ear, like he needed to make sure the words were real. Your father? My father. 72 years old, 22 years of service, 2 combat tours. He walked into that salon because it was 2 blocks from his VA clinic, and he wanted to look decent for the Veterans Day ceremony. My ceremony. Silence. Mr. Vaughn, my dad never told me what happened. You know why? Because he's the kind of man who doesn't complain. He's the kind of man who absorbs it. He would have carried that inside him forever and never said a word. I found out because I saw him, my own father, sitting on a sidewalk bench getting a haircut, like he didn't deserve to walk through a door. Fletcher's throat tightened. He couldn't speak. And then I read what that woman posted online, calling you a thief, a rule breaker, telling other salons not to hire you. She fired you for being decent to my father, and then she tried to bury you for it. Mr. Mayor, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was your... I know you didn't. That's the point. You didn't treat him well because of who his son is. You treated him well because of who you are. And that's exactly why I'm calling. Terrence paused. When he spoke again, his voice had shifted from controlled anger to something harder, something that sounded like a promise. What happened to you and what happened to my father is not going to disappear into a comment section. I'm going to make sure of that. Fletcher looked at Corinne. She was standing now. She could see his face. She didn't know who was on the phone, but she knew something had just changed. After he hung up, Terrence made 3 more calls that night. The first was to the Ashford Office of Civil Rights. He filed a formal complaint of racial discrimination on behalf of Harold Wilson and Fletcher Vaughn. He provided the salon name, the date, and a detailed account of the incident. The second was to the Georgia chapter of the NAACP. He requested legal support for Fletcher, wrongful termination, racial discrimination, defamation. He told them about Brenda's online campaign to destroy Fletcher's career. He told them this wasn't just about a haircut. The third call was to Angela Brooks, investigative reporter at WAXF, the local TV station. Terrence had known Angela for years. She was sharp, careful, and fearless. He gave her everything: the salon name, the video, the context, and Harold's permission to be interviewed. I'm not asking you to run this because I'm the mayor, Terrence said. I'm asking because my father is 72 years old. He's served this country for 22 years, and a woman decided he was trash. Angela Brooks started working before the phone call ended. Within 48 hours, she had on-camera interviews with Harold Wilson, sitting in his living room with his veteran's cap on the table beside him. With Fletcher Vaughn, calm and clear, telling his story from beginning to end. And with 2 former Thornton's employees who came forward after seeing the news coverage, both describing how Brenda had instructed front desk staff to tell black callers the salon was fully booked. Angela ran the story on the 6 o'clock news. The headline hit the screen in bold white letters: Salon owner fires hairdresser for free veteran haircut, then attacks him online. The veteran was the mayor's father. 2 twists in one headline: the firing plus the online attack, and the veteran's identity. The story detonated nationally. Denise Crawford was sitting on her couch when the segment aired. She watched Angela Brooks lay out the facts. She watched Brenda's Instagram post displayed on screen next to the TikTok video. She watched a polished news anchor ask the question the whole city was now asking. Was this about policy, or was this about race? And then she watched Brenda appear in a brief clip, standing outside her salon, telling a reporter with a steady voice, "This was a business decision. It had nothing to do with race." Denise stared at the screen. She knew that was a lie. She had proof it was a lie. She had the messages. She had the words in Brenda's own handwriting. The help. A black face. His people. Denise slowly picked up her phone, found Angela Brooks's contact information on the station's website, and she called. Not because she was brave, but because she couldn't sit there one more night knowing the truth and watching a lie win. The screenshots hit the internet like a detonation. Angela Brooks ran part 2 of her investigation the following evening. This time she had Denise Crawford on camera, face visible, voice steady, even when her hands weren't. And behind her, projected on the studio monitor, were Brenda Thornton's own words. "The help is getting too comfortable. I only keep him because the consultant said I need a black face. If one more of his people walks in here, I swear." Text messages sent from Brenda's personal phone in a group chat with her own staff. Date stamped, undeniable. The segment aired at 6. By 8, Brenda was recording. "I want to sincerely apologize if my actions were perceived as discriminatory. Thornton Style and Grace has always been a welcoming space for all people. This was a misunderstanding about salon policy, and I deeply regret any hurt that may have resulted. If perceived, may have." The internet caught every word she dodged. Within hours, clips of the apology were cut side by side with the TikTok video, side by side with her texts, side by side with the moment she told Harold Wilson that nobody was talking to him. 2 days later, Brenda tried again. Apology number 2. This time, the makeup was off. The lighting was dim. She sat in the same salon, but it looked emptier. She was crying. "I am not a racist. I have black friends. I hired Fletcher. I gave him a chance when nobody else would. I built this business from nothing, and now people are trying to destroy me over one bad day. I have black friends." The phrase trended within the hour. "I gave him a chance" was placed next to her own text message. "I only keep him for the optics." And the image went viral as a meme. 2 million shares in a single day. The internet never forgets, and it never forgives. Late-night hosts picked it up. Every word Brenda said to save herself became another nail in the coffin she was building with her own hands. The salon didn't collapse overnight. It crumbled in pieces, and every piece made a sound. Clients canceled first. The online booking system showed a 90% drop within 1 week. Regulars who had sat in those chairs for years quietly moved their appointments to other salons. Then the reviews came. Google rating, 4.8 to 1.1. Thousands of one-star reviews, many from people who had never set foot in Ashford. The page became a wall of outrage. The product partners left next. The organic hair care brand Brenda had promoted on her Instagram posted a single statement. "Our brand does not align with discriminatory practices. Our partnership with Thornton Style and Grace is terminated, effective immediately." Neighboring businesses in the shopping complex circulated a petition to have her lease reviewed. Staff resigned one by one. Denise had been first. The others followed in the days after the second news segment. Nobody wanted their name associated with Thornton's anymore. 2 weeks after the firing, Brenda Thornton sat alone in her salon. The chairs were empty. The mirrors reflected nobody. The instrumental jazz still played through the speakers, the same playlist that had been running the day she told Fletcher Vaughn to know his place. The orchids on the reception desk had started to brown at the edges. Nobody had watered them. The silence in that room was louder than anything Brenda had ever said. Then the lawsuit arrived. Fletcher Vaughn, now backed by an NAACP-appointed civil rights attorney, connected through the mayor's office, filed suit against Brenda Thornton and Thornton's Style and Grace. The charges were laid out in clean, sharp language. Wrongful termination, racial discrimination under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, hostile work environment, defamation for the public comments, the social media posts, and the calls to other salon owners designed to blacklist Fletcher from the industry. The State Attorney General's office flagged a case. It had the elements of a test case for discriminatory business practices in Georgia: pattern of behavior, documentary evidence, public interest. Brenda was served at the salon. The process server walked through the glass front door, past the empty chairs, past the dying orchids, and placed the documents on the marble counter. Brenda looked at them for a long time. She didn't open them right away. She just sat and stared at the envelope, like it was the last thing standing between her and everything she was about to lose. The courtroom was full, every seat taken, reporters in every row, cameras lined up outside. Fletcher Vaughn took the stand first. He wore a dark suit. His hands rested flat on his knees. He didn't fidget. He didn't rush. When the attorney asked him to describe his time at Thornton Style and Grace, he spoke the way he did everything, carefully. He described the day Harold walked in, the cap, the cane, the way the old man held himself, straight-backed even while leaning on a stick, the way he reminded Fletcher of his own father. "My father was a veteran," Fletcher said. "He died 2 years ago. When Harold Wilson walked through that door, I saw my dad. I saw a man who gave everything to this country and just wanted a clean haircut for a ceremony. I couldn't take his money. I wouldn't." He paused. "And I'd do it again. I'd do it 100 times. The courtroom was quiet. The defense attorney asked Fletcher if he understood that salon policy prohibited free services. Fletcher said yes. The attorney asked if he knowingly violated that policy. Fletcher said yes. Then he said, "Sometimes the right thing to do and the rules don't line up. I chose the right thing." The judge made no expression. The jury listened. Then Harold Wilson entered the courtroom. The doors opened and every head turned. He was wearing his full military dress uniform, pressed to perfection, every crease sharp, medals across his chest, service ribbons, combat badges, a bronze star pinned over his heart. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine. His veteran's cap was tucked under his left arm, a wooden cane in his right hand. He was 72 years old. His hair, the same hair Fletcher had cut on a bench, was silver white and perfect. He walked slowly, but he walked straight, shoulders back, chin level. The posture of a man who had once stood at attention and never fully stopped. Nobody asked the courtroom to rise. They rose anyway, one by one. The jury, the gallery, the attorneys, even the stenographer. They stood because they couldn't not stand. Something about the way Harold Wilson carried himself made sitting feel wrong. Harold took the stand. He adjusted the microphone with steady hands. He looked out at the room, calm, composed, the way a man looks when he's already survived the worst the world has to offer. He talked about his service, 22 years, 2 combat tours, friends he'd buried, letters he'd written to their families. He talked about coming home to a country that didn't always feel like home. He kept it short. He wasn't there to give a speech. He was there to tell the truth. Then he described the day at the salon. He described walking in, the glass door, the marble floors, the smell of something expensive he couldn't name. He described Fletcher pulling out the chair, the words, "Your money's no good here today." For 10 minutes, Harold said, I felt like I mattered, like somebody saw me, not as a number, not as a problem, just as a man who needed a haircut. Then he described Brenda. She looked at me like I was dirt someone had tracked in on their shoes. She spoke about me like I wasn't sitting right there. She told me nobody was talking to me, like I had no right to open my mouth in her building. Harold paused, his jaw tightened, and for the first time, the only time, his voice cracked. I served this country for 22 years. I have been shot at. I have carried men off battlefields who didn't make it home. I have buried my wife. I have lived through things I will never speak about. He looked directly at the jury. But I have never felt as small as I did sitting in that woman's chair. The courtroom wasn't silent anymore. A juror in the back row pressed her hand to her mouth. Another wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. A woman in the gallery stood up and began to clap before the bailiff motioned her to sit. The defense attorney did not cross-examine Harold Wilson. Denise Crawford took the stand next. Her hands trembled around the microphone. Her voice started small, barely louder than a whisper, but it grew. She described what she saw that day, what she heard, why she stayed silent at first. I was scared, she said. I'm a single mother. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I couldn't afford to lose my job. She paused, swallowed. But I couldn't afford to keep my silence either. Not after I saw him lie on television. The court displayed Brenda's text messages on a screen visible to the jury. Denise read each one aloud. The help is getting too comfortable. I only keep him because the consultant said I need a black face. If one more of his people walks in here, I swear. Each message landed like a verdict before the verdict. Brenda sat at the defense table with her eyes on the surface in front of her. She didn't look up, not once. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They returned with a unanimous decision. The foreman stood, the courtroom held its breath. Guilty on every count. Wrongful termination, racial discrimination, hostile work environment, defamation. Compensatory damages, $850,000. Punitive damages, $1.5 million. Total, $2.35 million. Brenda Thornton's cosmetology license was revoked by the state board. The judge read her statement without emotion. Discrimination dressed in business policy is still discrimination. Cruelty wrapped in professionalism is still cruelty. This court does not accept either. Brenda left through the back exit. No statement, no cameras, just the sound of a door closing. Fletcher walked out the front. The sunlight hit his face the same way it had on the sidewalk the day he was fired. But this time, Harold Wilson was waiting for him on the courthouse steps. The old man stood there in his uniform, medals still pinned, cane at his side. He didn't say anything. He just opened his arms. Fletcher stepped forward, and they held each other. Not a handshake, not a pat on the back, a real embrace. Two men, one sidewalk apart, now standing together. The kind between a man who lost his father and a man who reminded him what a father felt like. Cameras flashed. The photo went national. The image of a young black barber and an elderly black veteran holding each other on the steps of a courthouse became the defining picture of the case. The hashtag trended for 3 days straight. Justice for Fletcher. Fletcher used the settlement to open his own shop. He found a space on the corner of Elm and Broad, in the heart of Ashford's historically black neighborhood. Not downtown, not gentrified, not trying to be something it wasn't. He signed the lease on a Tuesday and stood in the empty room alone, just breathing, feeling the weight of a door that finally had his name on it. He called it Vaughn's. The sign went up on a Saturday. Simple, clean, black letters on warm wood. Below the name, "Your service is your payment." Every veteran who walked through the door got their first haircut free, no questions asked. Behind chair number 1, Fletcher hung 2 framed photographs side by side. On the left, his father, Staff Sergeant Leonard Vaughn in full dress uniform. On the right, Harold Wilson and Fletcher on the courthouse steps, arms around each other in the sunlight. His first hire was Denise Crawford. She showed up on opening day in a new apron. Fletcher handed her a set of brand new scissors with her initials engraved on the handle. She looked at them for a long time. Then she looked at him. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then she pressed the scissors to her chest and nodded. Then they both started laughing, the kind that only comes when something heavy finally lifts. Vaughn's wasn't just a barber shop. It was proof that something broken could become something better. Harold Wilson became a regular. He never once missed. Every other Saturday, same chair, same time. Fletcher always cleared the schedule and took Harold personally. He worked slow, slower than he needed to, because neither of them was ever in a rush. They talked about the weather, about football, about nothing in particular. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. They didn't need to. That's how it is between a man who lost his father and a man who reminded him what a father feels like. Mayor Terrence Wilson introduced the Harold Wilson Fair Business Act to the Ashford City Council. The ordinance required anti-discrimination training and annual compliance audits for every licensed business within city limits. Violations carried fines and license review. It passed unanimously without debate. Harold was present at the signing ceremony. He wore his veteran's cap. When the council invited him to the microphone, he stood slowly, gripped the edge of the podium with both hands, and looked out at a room full of people who were standing before he even opened his mouth. I didn't ask for any of this. I just wanted a haircut. But what I got was proof that good people still exist. And when good people stand together, even an old man with a cane can help change a city. The room gave him a standing ovation. Terrence stood behind his father with one hand resting on his shoulder. He didn't say a single word. He didn't need to. His hand said everything. Brenda Thornton sold her downtown property at a loss. She left Ashford without a word. There was no redemption arc, no tearful comeback. The story didn't need one. Some people just lose, and the world moves on without them. The space that once housed Thornton's Style and Grace was leased to a community arts program for underserved youth. The first exhibit featured portraits of Ashford's veterans, created by local teenagers from the same neighborhoods Brenda had spent 15 years keeping out of her salon. One of the portraits was Harold Wilson. It hung on the wall in the exact spot where Brenda Thornton's name had once been displayed in gold. So tell me, what would you have done? If you were sitting in that salon the day it happened, if you heard what she said, if you saw that old man called a cockroach, saw that old man's hands shaking on his cane, watched a good man get fired for doing something kind, would you have spoken up? Or would you have been one of the people who just sat there? Drop your honest answer in the comments, not the one that makes you look good, the real one. And if this story made you feel something, share it. Send it to one person, just one. Because a story sitting in your watch history doesn't change anything. A story you share can change everything. Because kindness is not weakness, and silence is never neutral. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you in the next one.
Here's what I keep thinking about. A man served his country for 22 years, went to war, came home. All he wanted was to sit in a chair and look good for one day. That's it. Not a medal, not a parade, just a haircut. And a room full of people decided he didn't deserve even that. But one person disagreed. One person said, no, this man gave 22 years. I can give 20 minutes. And he did. Even when it cost him everything, even when they threw him out, he sat that man down on a bench outside and finished what he started. Because some promises you don't break, no matter what it costs. And that's what I want you to take from this. when someone has given everything they have for you, for this country, for anybody, the least you can do is treat them with dignity, a kind word, a warm seat, a moment of your time. It doesn't take much, but to someone who's been forgotten by the world, it means everything. Like, share and subscribe, read stories, resist this every week. And remember, kindness is not weakness. It never was. And a person who punishes you for being kind has already lost something they'll never get back.